Today we've got a full in-depth review, a real-world review of the DJI Pocket 2. I'm filming on it right now. Everything that you see and hear in this entire review is going to be from this camera. And yeah, I took it out of my pocket. It's that small. But we're going to check this thing out and push it to the limit. We're going to look at it in good light, bad light, inside, outside, everything that you need to know to figure out whether or not you should be considering this little guy. Let's get started. Here's a quick look at some of the footage that I've shot with the Pocket 2, as well as some of the specs that you'll find in this camera. Okay, so let's get down to business and let's take this thing out into the real world here, to the beach, through some treacherous terrain here, and actually put this thing through its paces. Is it a perfect camera? Absolutely not. It's not going to replace your main A full frame mirrorless camera or something, but for what it is, it's actually pretty darn amazing if you ask me. Because of its ease of use, awesome audio, and focal length, this is probably the best vlogging camera that you can get these days. But let's really jump in and check out how this thing performs, starting with the gimbal. So let's get an idea of the stabilization from this 3-axis gimbal. And here we are, as you can see, walking on a bunch of rocks, uneven surface at the beach here. And this is just us walking. And let's try a little jog or a run. This is as bad as it gets. And I'm not really trying to stabilize it at all. Let me know what you think compared to, say, in-body image stabilization. I'm out of shape. So what do you think? How's the stabilization? Not bad, right? So the stabilization is awesome, but what about the video modes? Well, it does have a ton of photo and video modes. Here are the specs across the board if you're interested. And for the sake of time, I'll be covering the ones that you'll use most often in this video. So as far as dynamic range goes, which means the amount of information it can capture in both the highlights and the shadows, it's not going to be tremendous on this little tiny 1/1.7 inch sensor. Having said that, for what it is, I think it does a fantastic job. And as you'll see here in a bit, it even keeps up in low light pretty well. But I do suggest that you expose for your subject because you're really not going to get everything you want perfect. And it's not to be really expected. This is a pocket camera after all. And here's another perfect example of showing you the dynamic range at work. Here it is exposing for me, but I have the sunset in the background, so I have to choose between what I want exposed, the beautiful sunset or myself. And that's dynamic range for you. See what I mean? So let's talk about audio for a minute. When it comes to audio, you can expect that these little cameras are probably not going to have the greatest audio. They've gone ahead and improved the audio capabilities in camera, as you hear right now. It actually has 4 cameras all around this entire thing to pick up and isolate what it's actually hearing. In this case, it's right in front, so that's what it's going to concentrate on. It does actually a pretty good job at removing wind noise as well. We're here at the beach, and as you can hear, it doesn't really sound too bad. I don't think anyways. But for times when you actually want to take a step back and move away from the camera, you probably can't hear me very well. Don't worry, they have a solution. They've created a wireless mic that comes with the Creator Combo. It's a tiny little thing that fits in your pocket as well, of course, and I can just clip this to me here, like so, and have a wireless audio solution just like that. So I'm free to move around, and hopefully you can hear me and it's sounding pretty good. A lot of people have compared it to the Rode Wireless Go, which I personally use with my mirrorless full frame camera. But this thing, for what it is, not too bad. Sure, it has a little dead cat that doesn't look that great, but you can also take that off and use a lav mic to make it look a little bit better if you need to, or if you're worried about presentation. So let me know what you think about the audio down in the comments. But for me, and for what this thing is, I think it's fantastic. So this is what the audio sounds like, but what's the range like? Let's do a little test. I'm gonna actually just walk backwards over uneven ground for some reason and test the overall range of this thing. It gives you an idea about how far you can go. For the most part, you're gonna wanna keep line of sight with your little camera because that is the limitations of the wireless audio. But if I do turn around, did it reconnect? Did I even lose it? I don't know. So let's test and see how far I can go.
So it turns out the answer to that question is about 20 to 30 yards at most, and that's maintaining direct line of sight. So if you turn around or if there's trees or something in the way, you're going to encounter some cutoff.
Another really cool feature of the Pocket 2 is its ActiveTrack 3.0. And what this means is it will track me or anything that you tell it to just by kind of pressing or drawing a box over it. You see this in a lot of the DJI drones, but it's just a really cool feature to let you get out here and do a tutorial like this or follow you while you do sports or anything you could dream up. Now, I will mention though that if you want to use the face tracking or ActiveTrack option, you can't shoot in the highest quality. You have to use battery saver mode. That is a bit of a bummer, but you kind of have to choose between what's most important. For me, I don't do a heck of a lot of face tracking, so I'm normally filming on the highest quality. And I've had to put my face tracking back on right there, but I have tested this out. It does a pretty decent job. It's not perfect, but as long as you're not making huge fast movements like that, it does a pretty good job. And again, we're testing it in a backlit situation. We're really pushing the stuff to the limit today. But all in all, I think these features are great. I love to be able to control it with the app to see what's going on, to frame your shot, to make adjustments on the fly. It's just working for me. Another really cool feature of the app is that you can use it just like a joystick to control the movement of your camera. So even if you're not with your camera, maybe you're a little bit away, you can actually move it to where you want it to go, which is pretty cool.
So you're most likely going to be shooting outside in the day a lot with this camera. I recommend you pick up a set of neutral density filters to get out of auto mode, because in this case I'm filming at 1/500th of a second to compensate for the bright light. Popping a neutral density filter on takes my shutter speed down to a perfect 1/60th of a second. And this is going to make our footage look a lot better here in auto, and definitely when you're taking full control in pro mode. The filters are relatively inexpensive, tiny, and magnetic.
So this is a perfect time to test out some photos, if you ask me. It does take up to 64 megapixel photos, and that's really high. That's an insane number, but keep in mind the size of the sensor. Bigger doesn't always mean better. Let's take a few shots.
So here's a few photo examples with the Pocket 2, and the nice thing is that you can shoot in RAW, which means you can actually pull out a lot more information than a JPEG. Here's an idea of what that looks like in post. We're able to pull out a lot more detail from the shadows and the highlights to recover the image, which is a pretty nice option. Now, as far as quality is concerned, it's not going to be amazing, especially here in the shadows. You're going to see some noise and whatnot. It is a 64 megapixel cameras, but like I said, bigger isn't always better because, well, in low light, it's going to actually be harder to retain all that detail. Now, overall, it's a decent camera for photography, but I would much rather have a regular camera. And here's another example of taking some of that information in the raw photo and bringing it out in post. So looking at another example here in extremely low light, this is at 3200 ISO, really pushing the limitations of this sensor. 64 megapixels is a crazy number, especially when it comes to trying to gather all this detail at higher ISO. So it's really going to suffer, as you can see here in the shadows and whatnot. And this is a 64 megapixel photo. You can see that the overall sharpness is nothing mind-blowing. And I actually took a 16 megapixel photo of the exact same situation here, and you can see it actually performs better. So in a lot of cases, especially if you're shooting in low light, consider using 16 megapixels instead, and you're going to get a better result. But if you've got lots of nice light, then absolutely 64 megapixels is the way to go. It also has the ability to shoot in crazy wide 3x3 panoramic photos, as well as 180-degree panoramic modes, but if you're not on a tripod in perfect conditions, well, you're going to have artifacts and some weird things. So overall, when it comes to photos of this little guy, maybe skip it and stick to video.
It's also worth noting that you actually can't use the wide angle attachment with a neutral density filter, which is kind of a bummer as well. You have to choose, and that's what photography and filmmaking is all about. It's about compromise. In this case, I'm trying the ActiveTrack again as we kind of go along here, just to show you what this thing's kind of capable of. And in a second, I'm going to turn it off to show you the difference in quality that you can expect. And it's going to be more visible in the nighttime, which we'll get to. But this is just giving you an idea about walking over uneven surface with the gimbal in face tracking mode. What do you think? Okay, so now we've got face tracking off. And again, it's not that big of a deal when you're vlogging like this when it's super close, because it's really hard to not get you in the frame. But this is on high quality, and can you notice the difference in bitrate and the quality of the overall video? Let me know what you think.
So like I said, you're really going to be able to see the difference more in a situation where you're really pushing the ISO, especially at night. And here's an example of shooting in battery saver mode, and here's high quality mode. As you can see, it's quite a big difference, so I do suggest to shoot in high quality mode when possible. And if you're curious about how this compares to a GoPro, here's the Pocket 2 versus my old GoPro Hero 7 Black. A surprising performer, especially at night. So this little thing really can do it all. It also has the ability to shoot in slow motion, however, as you see here, it does degrade the quality a little bit. But in good light, it's going to get you some pretty decent footage. It's also going to have the ability to shoot hyperlapses, as well as time lapses and motion lapses, where you basically tell it a start and an end point, and it does the rest. And it does it easily through its intuitive interface on the camera, as well as in the app. So as far as performance and features are concerned, it's got a ton going for it. But what about the actual build? I opted for the Creator Combo, and I totally recommend it, as you do get the do-it-all handle, the audio attachment, a tripod, a case, and the wide-angle lens. A fantastic value. The overall quality is quite good, but do note that it is a gimbal and therefore will be a bit fragile and is definitely not waterproof. So definitely check that out in comparison. But as far as the overall build is concerned, one of the best things about this thing is it fits in your pocket and everything that you need is attached to it. The button layout and joystick are super easy to use, convenient, and have lots of great easy features like tilt lock, recenter, and quickly swing the gimbal 180 degrees. Another great thing is that it starts up in about 1 second flat, so you're filming in no time.
Okay, so we're losing light pretty quick here, and I thought we could just do a couple last tests, mainly to do with the audio. What you're hearing right now is the in-camera mics on the Pocket 2 without the wireless microphone. So I wanted to show you what the difference is switching back and forth, and also just how fast you can do it. I have it here in my hand, and we're gonna switch it on. And it tells me that the mic power remaining is 75%. So this thing lasts forever, which is great. And it actually shows you that it's connected, so you can have confidence in that. And let me know what you think of the difference in quality between the off-camera mic, the wireless mic here, and mic disconnected. That's how long it takes. The mic on the Pocket 2. So I'm curious myself, because I haven't played around with it too much yet, but let me know what you think of the differences in terms of audio quality. And also, while we're on the topic of battery life, the wireless microphone has a great battery life, but what about the Pocket 2 itself? The downside of the Pocket 2 when it comes to battery is that there's no removable batteries. And that is kind of a downside for me, and a lot of people, I bet, because if you're out filming all day, you want to have the juice. So it depends on your usage. What you're filming is really going to depend on how much juice that you get. Now, having said that, I use the DJI Mavic Minis, and pretty much any drone that you have, you're going to be able to use the batteries as a battery bank. So make sure you bring some extra power to get you through the day, because it probably won't last an insane amount of time. Now, again, depending on what you're doing, if you're shooting in high quality mode, shooting lots of 4K, face tracking and whatnot, yeah, you're probably going to only get about an hour and a half. But for me, it seems like I've stretched it a little bit, and I've been pretty happy with the battery life so far. So those are my thoughts on the audio and the battery. So let's talk about my final thoughts with this little beast. Right now, once again, I'm using the wireless mic and just kind of looking around, which is kind of the cool thing, because you don't have to be pointing this thing at you to use and have great audio. Now, the size is great. I love that I can take it anywhere, and it's just convenient and easy. You can't beat it in that regard. The quality, well, you're going to be the judge on that one, but I think for what it is, it's pretty much fantastic. It's versatile, it's convenient. With a few button presses, I can pretty much do everything that I'm looking for. It's got some great features, and honestly, for the price, $350 American for the Pocket 2 or $499 for the Creator Combo, I think it's absolutely worth it. So would I buy it again? Yeah, I totally think so. It's a great camera, not so much for professional use, but for vlogging, for family stuff, for just getting out and shooting content, not having to worry about a heck of a lot, I would completely and absolutely recommend it. So those are my final thoughts, guys. I hope you like this video, and if you do like the Pocket 2 and you want to buy it, make sure you check down in the description for affiliate links. And if you like this video, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, of course. Like always, make mistakes, be yourself, and get out here and take some more pictures. See you next time.